Hey everyone, good morning. It's 9:32, a bit later than normal. 9:30, 9:30 on a Wednesday morning, and it's Innovation Fika. I'm still a bit bunged up here after my flu, a tough one this year. I was in bed not in bed, but I was at home for almost a week. But I'm back now, back at work, back with Innovation Fika every Wednesday morning, 9:30. Coffee break chat about things that are worth talking about. And we go live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. Just going live on Instagram as well. There we go. Live on Instagram. And I will just mute that tab as well. There we go. Mute tab. Perfect. Very good. And as usual, as you come online, please pop a comment in the chat and say who you are and where you're from, and we can get the discussion going. And as I wrote in this week's episode, it's still talking about change. I've been talking about change the last couple of times now. I had an AI stretch when I did a bunch of AI things, coming back to AI soon again with some guests as well. And but now I'm talking about change. I've been talking about change for the last 2 or 3 episodes. I'm writing a book called The January Trap. It's designing the cover and getting the formatting done now. So hoping to see it sort of on Amazon or and publishing within a couple of weeks. But that's all about the idea of designing change that lasts and designing change that survives contact with real life. Because I've come to see that a lot of change fails, much based on that people don't prepare for change in a good enough way. They don't plan change. They don't prepare for change. They want the change, and they want to see the end result, but they don't always. I don't want to say understand. That sounds. I don't mean to sound condescending, but people don't sort of realize how much is stacked against them as they start going into change. And I think that just by understanding the core fundamentals of what makes change fail and what enables change to succeed is a very big way of not guaranteeing success. You can never guarantee success, but it at least minimizes the chances of or risks of failing. So what I usually talk about when I talk about change is the I have a number of things that I talk about, but I talk about, well, first of all, just coming to some kind of a basic conclusion that we have to stop seeing failure to change as a character flaw. Most people that, they try something, they try either their personal change, they have, I want to start training, I want to lose weight, stop smoking, eat better, whatever change people want to do. I want to learn language, whatever they want to do. They start something, doesn't work, and then they stop. And, that's constantly, the only thing you hear then is, it's discipline, it's character. It's all about character. You have to push through. You have to, but the thing is, that's only half of the story, because I personally believe that all people have an ability to change. Everyone has an ability to change. It's just a matter of understanding that everybody has a different capacity to endure what is coming, what they'll be hit with. And I think that understanding your own personality, how you prefer to change, what you prepare, and the kind of person you are, the kind of personality you are, is a fundamental way of understanding as well how I can, and increase the chances of my change is working. So first of all, if you do away with the, I won't call them excuses, but I will say the common thoughts of that, I can't do this, I don't have a strong enough character, or I can never do this because this isn't, this isn't for me. But everybody can do anything and everything to a certain extent. I mean, everybody can play football, soccer. Doesn't mean that you're good at it, but everybody can kick a ball around, right? So, and then we all have a different abilities and capacities to how well we can do that. But everybody can also become better at it from where they are, and goes for all skills. I talk about creativity and innovation and working with new ideas. I mean, everybody has a capacity for that, right? So doing away with I can never do this is like step one, and then you have to then look at, okay, well, how do I set myself up for successful change? What do I actually do as a person or an organization or a group to plan for successful change? And then you need to start, understanding some of the fundamentals that, first of all, change is contextual. All change exists in some kind of context, in a life, at a workplace, in a social environment, in a family. There's a context that you have to take into consideration. You can't just sort of jump into things and expect yourself and your change to work in the context of yesterday. You have to also understand what's going to be working against me as I try to change, because I mean, systems don't like change. Systems always try and they try to find this equilibrium, the status quo in the middle, right? So systems will always be trying to not combat, but reject change, because systems like status quo. So that's number one, understanding that there will be pushback, and then understanding what kind of pushback there will be, understanding how to mentally prepare yourself for that pushback, and putting yourself in a place where you can actually create something that can live in this new world. And there's a number of ways of doing that. For yourself, it usually is about understanding that you need to stop adding on things that you want to become or change, like, oh, I want to do this as well, and then people and they stack on another thing. I have to start training, so they stack on training onto a life which is already super full with things, right? Instead of saying, okay, well, if I'm going to add something, what needs to go? So one example is when I started training in the mornings. I decided I wanted to start training a number of days in the week, and I wanted to do it in the mornings because that was the only time I had that amount of time to train often and consistently, which then meant that I had to start going to, well, it sort of, in the end, it actually turned my day around. So I had to start going to bed earlier in the evening, which meant I had to change my evening rituals. So around 10 p.m., I started sort of thinking, okay, I need to start sort of getting ready for bed. Started looking into packing my bag for the morning, because I always pack my bag in the evening for the day after. And then, getting everything ready. So sometime 10:30 or so, and after, I would be sort of heading into bed so I can get up at 6 and go training every morning. So I had to sort of change my evening ritual to accommodate my morning ritual, which is kind of what I'm talking about here. One thing, subtraction beats addition. So trying to take things away. So if you're going to do something here, what leaves, what changes, and taking things away, doing less things and doing them well is better than adding more things and doing everything semi good. So that's one thing when it comes to looking at how to contextually work with things, and then also mentally preparing yourself for, okay, well, how will the system push back, and how will I react when the system pushes back? Like, if I'm changing my diet, I might need to, I'll bring my own, I'll prep food, bring to work. What kind of environment do we have at work? Will people be commenting, or yes or no? How do I present that, or how do I signal that? Another thing when it comes to context is all change that we do with ourselves in physical, like diet, smoking, training, whatever, sleeping, will affect us physically, but it will also affect us mentally and psychologically, which means that in a transition period, we will be in a more sort of fragile state, but we might be grumpy, we might be short tempered, we might be whatever, and that needs to be taken into consideration as well. One, understanding that you will be like that, so you don't react surprised yourself, but also maybe just paving the way by preparing your environment, or sometimes saying that, sorry for being a bit, short today, but I'm a bit whatever, and just sort of paving the way for the change that's going on and the transition that is happening in your body physically, which actually affects you mentally and psychologically as well. That's a very important thing, and that's something we often miss. So I mean, when colleagues and friends and whatever, act strange differently one day, instead of lashing out and reacting to some kind of behavior and being angry with them, maybe the first question should be, okay, have you slept? Have you eaten? Are you okay? Is there anything going on? Is there a change happening? Just to understand, is there something contextually that we need to understand is going on here that we might need to, just relate to. I think that's very important. So that's the contextual part. So that's, that's a very, very big part of change. All change happens in a context. And then I was talking about this sort of mental preparation, because that's also a very, very big part of it, that you need to prepare mentally for what is going to happen. Like athletes that do mental training and mental prep, they don't necessarily visualize standing on the podium and only the winning. They don't only visualize the actual outcome, but they also visualize, the better thing is actually to visualize the road to get there. So visualizing the hardships, the training, the early mornings, the grind, the consistency, visualizing that and getting that into your head, that this is what I will be going through, this is the normal thing. Visualizing a drab gray Thursday morning when you're back at it again and it feels really mentally tough. That's what you need to visualize. So when you see that and when you experience that, it's not a new thing, it's part of the change that you're going through. I think that's another very important thing, of being mentally prepared for what the change will actually ask you to do, and I know, and the feelings you might have. So and that's also part of the prep thing is, you decide on a change, and then you decide on, then we're talking about the goals and habits thing. That's the next step. When people set goals for their change, I want to lose this much weight, or I want to, whatever they want to do, but then they only talk about the outcome. They only talk about where they want to be. They never talk about sort of how to get there, which is, that's the habitual part. And I'd say that habits, as everybody says, habits is the way to change. You need to create a habit, and focusing on the journey more than the goal. Because if you only focus on the goal, then it's always a binary yes, no, did I make it or did I not? But if you focus on the journey, that instead of, like me, again, training, so I had some sort of checkpoints along the way that I wanted to reach, but my ultimate focus was, I want to get back to, well, in my case, it was 5 days a week training. You could do 3 days a week, 4 days a week. And if that's the purpose, I want to train 4 days a week, then that's what you're focusing on. And the whole sort of habitual routine thing, and that will then lead to you reaching a number of checkpoints and goals along the way, instead of having one sort of goal that you will reach yes or no. So I think that's also another thing when it comes to how we set goals. When I work with goals here at the university with my teams, I always have, we have three things. We have goals, actions, and challenges. So which goals are we looking at, or goals? What are we trying to reach the coming sprint? If it's a week, a month, 4 months, there's like a checkpoint goal. What is that? Is that clear? Is it defined? How do we measure it? How do we know that we've reached that checkpoint or not? And then you have, which actions are we going to perform to get there, which is, that's actually the road to get to the goal. So we're designing the pathway the method to get to the goal. And then we have challenges, which is, in our case here, is like, okay, and this is things that we don't know. This is things that we need help with. This is things that we need to ask our environment about. In personal change, the challenges might be, I know it's going to be tough in this situation. I know this is going to be a challenge, and that will help you, again, mentally frame your mind to be able to, to work with those challenges. For me, like I quit nicotine like 20 years ago or something like that. And I knew when the cravings were going to hit. So I made sure that I had substitutes for those occasions. So I could take, there was whatever, nicotine, chewing gum or patches or whatever, So I kind of sort of tried to mitigate when I knew it was going to happen. And always sort of have those kind of things around. So the same that people are on diets and they, spend a full day at it. They do a really good job. And then in the evening, they're super hungry. They have hunger pangs, and they're standing in front of the cupboard or the fridge, and they go, "Oh my God, I have something to eat." And then they and then they sort of go overboard and kind of thing, instead of planning for that and saying, okay, I will probably experience hunger pangs in the evening. What do I prepare to have that there? Do I have some simple oatmeal, or do I have whatever, carrot sticks or anything prepared to help me through those situations when I will experience that? Loads of ways of actually sort of working with those challenges that you will see happening. Same thing goes for teams, teamwork, how to work with teams, and what challenges will we have, and how are we going to work as a team to overcome the challenges that we have when we start working together, and when the friction happens. How do we communicate? How do we raise, do I put my hand up and say, hey, I'm not feeling comfortable now? Or how do we actually work as a team together to mitigate those challenges that we and things that we will happen. So so we have context, we have the mental awareness of what's going to happen. We have how to work with goals, working for habits instead of goals, and making sure that we actually have a road to reach our goals. And then I think the mental prep work is important, and that's leading up to the change. Because I mean, when I've changed something, as I said, I stopped nicotine. I've done loads of things that has taken has demanded me to actually consistently do something in some kind of new habitual way. That has been a change, which means that I have to change a habit, which is always tough. So usually then I've started sort of visualizing, okay, what do I actually want to change? Why do I want to change that? I mean, why do I want this? So, trying to want it enough. If you don't want it yourself, if you haven't internalized your want, it's never really going to work. I mean, if you're only trying to change because your environment tells you to change, it's really, really tough. It's really tough to change because somebody else tells you to change. And it's not until you've internalized your want and want it yourself for real that it can actually start kicking in. So I think that's really important as well. The whole sort of internalizing the want. And sometimes external pressure or external shifts in values will lead to people changing like overnight. Like when people have a baby, a typical thing like, oh, I'm having a baby, I'll stop smoking. Boom, like that. And previously, up to that point, there was there was no real sort of own want which was strong enough to drive that change. All of the sort of the ideas of changing and stopping smoking was like a externally imposed superficial thing where you were reading that, oh, smoking is not good for you, or it's bad, or it's expensive, or whatever it is. But it kind of things that were externally imposed on you instead of you feeling that I really want to change this. So when I've been going through changes, I've had this sort of mental I don't know what to call it, self-suggestion thing or something, where I've been sort of preparing myself mentally for, okay, I want to change this. I really want to do this. I really want to be able to do this. And then we wait for timing. We wait for the perfect time. because timing is not about dates. And that's something we make a mistake with when we pick like January 1st, or heck, why do always people pick Mondays to start something? I mean, Mondays is the worst day of the week. People don't like Mondays anyway. It's the day when we have the highest cognitive load of starting things up. We're coming out of a lovely weekend. We're back at work, the swamped emails, meetings. That's not the perfect day to start something, even though we do have diets and training programs and everything else that starts on Mondays. Don't start on a Monday. Timing isn't about dates. It's about picking a time in your context where your capacity is as high as possible, and then going for it. And usually, for me, it's some kind of serendipitous moment where things, when I'm just sort of, I just feel like, okay, I've been mentally preparing for this for weeks or months. Now, suddenly I was presented with an opportunity. Boom, now I'm starting. It could be a Wednesday afternoon or Saturday morning. It just need that sort of moment when things sort of kind of just slot into place, and then boom, you act on it. I mean, we're presented with opportunities for all kinds of things every day, all the time. It's all about being open for actually acting on them. So, I can list 4 or 5 different situations where I have had things that, I wish I could do this, is where it starts. And then that goes into sort of, I really want to do this, which is like the next stage. Wishing for something doesn't mean that you can do it. It's just a wish. Wanting something, wanting it enough, and then I really want to do this, but I need to sort of just find a good place to start. And then boom, an opportunity arises. Like when I was, one example, I was gonna, I'd been, for years, I'd been thinking about, so maybe I should take my motorbike license. When I was young, I didn't do it. I was not the person to ride a motorbike. And my dad, being a surgeon, he said, please don't ride a motorbike. I see too many accidents, and please, promise me to not ride a motorbike. And I said, sure. But then, as I got to grow older, I felt a bit mature. I felt a bit better. Maybe I should, it would be fun to take my motorbike license. And then not sort of, not picking a date, or not knowing sort of how to go about it. And then I was visiting a friend, and for some reason, we were in the garage, and there was this old motorbike standing in a corner that they weren't using anymore. And it was like, this was like November, I think it was. And I said, well, can I borrow that bike over the winter just to, figure out how to ride a bike? And I said, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I borrowed the bike, and then I spent, they helped me get the bike into town, and I put it in a parking place, a secluded parking place. And then just a couple of mornings a week, I just went there early in the morning and spent, an hour, 2 hours, not 2 hours, half an hour, an hour, just, trying to figure out how does this thing work in a closed off space. And come spring, I bought myself a bigger bike, did the same thing, more mornings. And then I took some actual driving lessons, and I took my license in the summer. But the whole sort of thing it started off with this serendipitous moment when I was presented with an opportunity that matched something that I mentally prepared for. So I think that the timing issue is super important. And I'm not saying that wait for the serendipitous moment, because if you wait, nothing will, then it won't happen. People wait forever to do stuff, and then they don't do it. You have to act as well. But preparing yourself mentally and opening up for it also leads to, when you want it enough, mentally you tip over and you go, okay, we're off. We're doing it now. And then you can start. And don't start on a Monday. Bad day to start. Start on a Wednesday or a Thursday or whatever. I mean, I never come back to work on a Monday after holiday. I always start on a Thursday or a Friday. So I ease into it. Anyway, that's kind of what I'm talking about here. Change that lasts. We're happy to work with anyone who wants to design change that lasts. If you know any companies that want to talk about change internally, happy to do that as well. Reach out to me. You'll find me on LinkedIn. And that was this for this week. Maybe next week, I'm hoping to have a guest on the show as well, coming back to guests. I mean, this is episode 201 on my Innovation Fika. 201 episodes, of which I think about at least 150 are with guests. So, I mean, I have loads and loads of recorded, really cool interviews as well on YouTube. All of the recordings are on YouTube. You can check them out. And I'm hoping to get a guest on the show next week again. But for now, I will say thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed coffee with me, Innovation Fika, Wednesday morning. See you next Wednesday, 9:30, with a guest talking about something new. Super cool. Okay, bye for now.